Oh, great.
There we go. We're only running a little behind. How are y'all?
No worries.
Good. How are you?
Very well.
Who was moderator? I'm sorry, I'm looking right now.
That's me, Evan.
Okay, so Evan, I'm just going to jump on and turn it over to you since we're running out of time.
Okay.
A couple quick pointers. Try to keep your microphone off when you're not talking. You won't be able to hear it, but you'll create feedback for somebody else. And then when we go live, your screens are going to go blank for 15 to 30 seconds. Don't panic. Don't push anything. Looks like somebody already brought us live. Hey, we're live. Somebody push the green button.
Right.
All right. Well, forget what I said. That was just background for your panel. Evan, it looks like we're live and ready to go, and people are starting to join from the lobby. So take it away, Evan.
Do we have a hard stop at 11?
We do not have a hard stop. We're recording this. It'll be on YouTube this afternoon. So for anybody that can't get on, we'll have it available for eternity.
Okay.
Your kids can watch it at your funeral or something. They'll be like, remember when Dad talked on it? It was so awesome. I'm going to replay that. It'll still be there.
Okay.
Right? There you go. Okay.
Knowing you're running late, when do you want us to adjourn this panel?
I would say 10 minutes after.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for joining us this morning. Excited to have an opportunity to see you all online. We've got a great panel this morning. I'm Evan Beatty with GFF Architects. I lead our multifamily practice, and it's been a good time, despite all the uncertainty in the world, to be in the multifamily design space. We've stayed busy through COVID-19 and are excited to have some time to spend with you this morning with Sumner, David, and Michael. Michael Blackwell, why don't you introduce yourself next, and then we'll go to David and Sumner.
Perfect. Hey everybody. Thank you, Evan. I'm given the comment about our kids watching this later at a funeral. I'm reminded of the last advice I got from my 7-year-old, which was, "Deadpan, Dad, you talk too much." So I'll try to be quick. But Michael Blackwell, I lead the team in North Texas for Mill Creek Residential Trust. Mill Creek Residential Trust was born out of the Trammell organization coming out of the great financial crisis, created in 2011, now 17 offices across the country. Pretty large national footprint. I have responsibility for the North Texas region specifically. Most people have a Crow heritage in the organization. I do not. I've been here for a little over a year. Thrilled to be here and really go, quite frankly, deep and wide in Dallas-Fort Worth with a great team. We do build in-house, property manage in-house, investment manage in-house, but I have responsibility for the stuff that we are doing now and the pipeline that we're attempting to cultivate going forward.
David,
Yeah, great. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for your time, and real pleasure to be here with this great panel today. Dave Holland with Provident Realty Advisors. We're based here in Dallas. We're a privately held firm. We do have our own in-house general contractor. I lead up the multifamily group, but we do have other divisions that do single-family lot development, other mixed-use commercial projects, and we're real excited to continue with the multifamily throughout this whole process. It's been still gangbusters for us. We're in the entire state of Texas, but we're also branching out into New Orleans and to Denver right now. So got a lot going on, and we're excited to give you any information you might want about how we're doing it.
Great, thanks, David. And Sumner?
Yeah, I'm Sumner Billingsley. I work for Billingsley Company and am a partner here. I've been with Billingsley for about 6 years, and we're predominantly a local DFW company. We have some projects and interests in Chicago and Houston, but predominantly what we do is based here in Dallas, certainly for the multifamily. And I work on all of the multifamily and then the retail portfolio as well. But the company itself does office, industrial, raw land, multifamily, and retail. So that's our focus. And as for what we do in-house, we are a little bit unique in that when it comes to the multifamily, we build it in-house, we manage it and market it and lease it in-house and operate it in-house.
So wear a lot of hats.
Indeed.
Great. To get us started, let's talk a little bit about areas for growth for multifamily in Texas. It's been a boom time, but we've seen some trends in the last 6 months, particularly an increased interest in suburban projects, especially higher barrier to entry suburbs where entitlements for multifamily are difficult to achieve. Michael, could you talk a little bit about Mill Creek's strategy related to suburban versus urban infill core deals?
Sure. So it's interesting as a company, Mill Creek, again, partly a function of from when we came in 2011. The company was reconstituted from what had been mostly Trammell Crow residential to Mill Creek, which is an homage to the family farm in East Texas, the Crow family farm in East Texas, Mill Creek Farm. And I mentioned that because while we always had a presence in Dallas, the 14 other offices at the time that we had across the country were major, for the most part, major gateway markets, right? And so the strategy really from the beginning was to sort of stay in those cities, defined in our parlance as urban or suburban. And just I went back and looked at our statistics, and at a national level, it's pretty interesting. I think 37,000 units have been completed or under construction, of which I wrote it on my board here. I think 70% were either urban or suburban core, and 2/3 were podium or tower construction. And so generally speaking, that reflects where we've seen opportunity in the markets that we're in, but it has been a decidedly urban focus as opposed to suburban. 10% of our production so far built and under construction has been qualified in our parlance as suburban. Given that focus historically, there clearly is a motivation to kind of increase the size of that as a percentage of what we're doing going forward. That would probably be a combination of suburban core and suburban. And suburban core, we all have different names for, but sort of town center development in suburbs versus greenfield development in exurbs, right? And so we certainly are spending a lot of time focused on that. I would say, honestly, Dallas and Houston and Atlanta within our national portfolio or probably make up the majority of what had been the contribution of suburban product. And because by nature, they're a little bit more spread out, a little bit more greenfield major markets. But I think across all of our markets in the country now, there's just kind of there's a willingness and an interest to go and focus on that. And that's a combination of, we think people in fact do want to be there. There is a little bit of trend that we're following that has a pandemic kind of contact. And quite frankly, capital wants to be there, particularly when the schools are good and there's a story to what we're doing.
Great. David, as your company looks at suburban deals, what challenges are you facing as you go chase projects in the suburbs?
What's really interesting is that we're seeing that these suburban ring cities, if you will, around major metropolitan areas are starting to adopt some sort of a zoning ordinance that kind of almost compresses your site into more of an urban core feel, even though you're out in the suburbs. That's kind of the trend that we're seeing. So Frisco, for example, I mean, there's hard to get any kind of zoning unless you're providing structured parking, and structured parking is usually something reserved for the urban core. So as we're seeing more and more companies relocating out into the northern suburbs and building more infrastructure, more people coming, it's kind of developing its own sense of an urban core, even though it's out in the suburbs. So we're seeing quite a bit of that, but we're also seeing even beyond that next ring, kind of a lower density, type of a situation that people are still buying homes kind of way out there, and there's still a big propensity to rent. So to fill that need, you kind of have to have a story with it. You have to be close to a lot of other outdoor amenities, shopping, entertainment, and jobs have to be kind of close by, and you have to have some connectivity to that. So that's the challenge. We're kind of taking a step back from the in-town urban core and kind of creating more suburban core type properties.
New suburban core is evolving to become urban places. Sumner, as we think about the suburban growth we're seeing, creating authenticity in a greenfield can be a little bit harder. And your company's done some really innovative things from a placemaking perspective. I would love to hear you talk a little bit about your strategy how you can go and execute a suburban deal and have it not just be another commodity product along a freeway or a major thoroughfare.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's been so much growth in the suburbs and there's so much demand that you can't just get away with shooting up a garden style product here and there and having it not tie to a larger community and have it be competitive. The reason the suburbs are so strong and why so many people are going there is because of jobs. Dallas has been fortunate enough to we were ranked number 1 in the country last year. I think it was like 127,000 new jobs that were brought to the city in 2019. And we're going to continue to see that growth. We're projected to have the number 1 population growth of all U.S. cities between 2019 and 2024. And so I would double down on the suburbs all day long. And as companies continue to see our market as being more attractive and wanting to relocate here, it's in the middle of the country. There's a good quality of life. We have good school systems, pretty good weather. As companies continue to move here, there's going to be more people coming from the East Coast and the West Coast relocating, and they're going to still want that urbanity and that character that they're leaving behind, as well as the natural amenities, the trail systems, the lakes. And so I think what we've definitely tried to do is, even though you're building something that may be farther out at the time, really trying to create a sense of place. So taking one of our properties is the Brickyard, for example. When we built it, it was in Farmers Branch. There was a canal and pretty much one office building nearby, and that was it. And we really looked at what makes an urban community rich. So we took away the curbs. We did brick pavers on the sidewalks. We went heavy on landscaping so that it really felt like it already existed and been lived in. Another thing that I think is crucial that we do at other projects is a variety of different architectural styles. So it doesn't feel like something that was shot up as one, but that really was developed organically over time. Another thing that we do is anybody that lives on the first floor, even though they can come in through their corridor, which are like air-conditioned corridors or open breezeways, every single first floor unit will always have a front door and its own address. So it feels like a neighborhood. Those are just a few of the things that come to mind. But when you're building out these areas, you have to have the multifamily there to attract the employers to relocate there, so you can have a strong, bright, young work base here to get to land the big tenants. And then you have to have the retail and you have to have programming. It has been amazing to see how essential the programming has become to us to be able to land big office tenants and to be able to retain our multifamily tenants, especially when they're farther out like that. It gives them a real sense of community and entertainment.
So when you said programming, having some outdoor concerts and bringing in yoga instructor and those kinds of things that bring residents together and create that feel of a neighborhood.
Yes, absolutely. So we at Cypress Waters, we built out the sound stage and we do concerts. We do like the Creature Teacher on the weekends and comedy shows, movie nights, boot camps, yoga classes. We just keep it highly programmed because, again, that's what's going to differentiate you from all the other developments. I mean, there's so much growth going on in Dallas right now. It's incredibly exciting. So you have to think of the edges that are going to set you apart. Another thing is, integrating interesting, high quality artwork. Mm-hmm. These are the places that folks are going to choose to spend the majority of their time if they're working there, and certainly all their time if they're living there. And so you want it to be a rich experience for them that's unique, and it holds them there for the long term, not just for a 12-month lease.
Makes sense. Michael, as Mill Creek is looking at suburban deals, would you do a suburban deal that isn't walkable, that didn't have a few restaurants it could walk to, or is that just key to successfully executing in the burbs for Mill Creek?
I'll break apart the question in two components. I don't know that we would do a project that we would conceive a project that is in the suburbs that is not walkable. I think the definition is what does walkable mean. That when you append to the question that could walk to a couple restaurants, I wouldn't say we wouldn't necessarily do something where you can't walk to 2 restaurants. But there's a phrase that I've gotten stuck in my head as we sort of migrate to trends and trying to look at what are the sticky parts of we can debate a lot of the things that are harder to determine if they're going to stick or become structural when a recovery has taken place. I think one of the real residual impacts is going to be people wanting to be outside, right, and recognizing sort of the life-giving value of that. And so walkability, in my mind, whether out in the exurbs, in the suburban core, all the way into the urban core, has kind of shifted a little bit, right? The transit-oriented development becoming trail-oriented development, right, in an urban context. In a suburban context or suburban core context, I do think it may mean walking to a restaurant. In an exurban environment, I think the opportunity, and Cypress has done an unbelievable job with master plans creating block structure and sort of variety in housing typologies. Even before they have restaurants there, it's very walkable, right? And so I think that the answer is that in the exurbs of the real suburban stuff, creating a place where people are motivated to get outside of their and walk wherever that is. And so looking for those opportunities is part of what, in my mind, would be the site selection criteria for a suburban deal, right? Is what can they walk to? And then specifically, how do you take whatever that is and sort of thread it through how you do things? And in so doing, I think you have the opportunity to create something walkable, whether it's to a bar or restaurant or not.
That access to open space and unique experiences. It doesn't have to be a bar and restaurant, but it has to have connectivity some way other than via a car.
That's right. And we should, I say we certainly feel compelled, and when we're in that site design process, which is different on a large site than it is on a core site, right? In a very tight core site, your grid and your context is more or less given to you. Out there, you have the opportunity to create it. So if you don't have a hash line that's working through that site plan saying, where do people walk here, then we're missing. If it's just citing building A, building B, like an old garden deal, and I'm not trying to say that can't work, but really, really having the rigor to come back and say, how do people move through these spaces? Where do they go? What's interesting beyond the walls of the building, the four walls of the unit?
It's that fifth place that's a differentiator, or third place. Dave, could you talk a little bit about the site selection process for Provident in the suburbs? The 4 to 6 acre sites are kind of easy. Okay, it's a 4 to 6 acre site. We're going to do a wrap. How big of a net are you casting? How big of sites will you go after?
Well, I'm thoroughly convinced that all the 4 to 6 acre, 15 acre zone sites are gone. So now you have to get creative. Sometimes it's an adaptive reuse of taking something down, but what we're focusing on are larger tracts. I mean, 60 to 70 acre tracts that could form just a culmination of what everything Provident does. It could be, some portion of it industrial, some portion of it retail, some portion of it single family for sale, sometimes single family for rent is another product line that we're able to execute today. So the 15 acre cornfield zone sites, there's no story to them unless you're lucky enough to be close to another amenity. But like I said, all those sites are pretty much gone. So we're really kind of branching out into the northern suburbs where we can find a big piece of land and really master plan it well with adding in our own, walking trails, hiking trails, outdoor space. On the single family for rent, everyone's got a backyard. So that way there's a lot of outdoor connectivity. And of course, parking is a constant challenge. We've got to make sure that we've got enough space for people to park, but we don't want to have the automobile as the front and center piece when you drive in to one of our communities. We try to hide those as best we can, just to kind of make it feel like a more walkable neighborhood.
Suburban urban product, still holding the street edge and doing the Jane Jacobs eyes on the street community building.
Goes back to zoning. I mean, what the planning directors up in these northern suburbs, they've all gone to the same seminars and seen what they think they want for their city. And then it's our job as developers to kind of convey reality. This is what we can do, and this is what we can expect to execute, and still give them what they want to some extent. But they just have to be educated on what really works today.
Makes sense. For these larger sites, you really need a diversity of product types. Sumner, could you talk a little bit about Billingsley's approach to delivering townhomes, and are you looking at doing some active adult components in your projects that create great demand for a mixed generational kind of neighborhood?
Absolutely. And just one thought too on the previous comment, and just the demand, the desire to have this rich urban quality product out in suburbs. That product that I was mentioning, the Brickyard, which was, as I mentioned, in the boonies sort of at the time and all on its own. We did it in over 80% brick, and we had no idea how that lease up was going to go. And it ended up being our fastest lease up in our in our company ever. So I just think that is a quick example of how much thirst and desire there is for this quality in the suburbs. Just because somebody doesn't want to have like an hour and a half commute to get to work every day doesn't mean that they don't want, whether it's urbanity or the access to nature or just the quality of architecture. Because so often I feel like suburban architecture in the past has just been like, throw it up. And now it's really challenged all of us to step up our game. And so to your point with what are we doing to try to get a variety in there, we certainly do townhomes at all of our, pretty much every project. Even if it's rat buildings, then we'll do townhomes to shield the parking lot so that you don't feel like you're living next to this large structured parking lot. And then with a rat building, on any given rat building, we have a minimum of 4 different architectural styles. And we usually try to vary the number of floors even throughout, so that from the outside, it'll look like townhomes and then a smaller unit, maybe a row house mixed in, just to break it up and give that sort of quality to the product. Townhomes, I think this shift towards people being drawn out to the suburbs has been going on for years. And we're going to continue to see it for the long haul, just as the city continues to grow in population and all of that. However, I do think that with COVID, we were going 60 miles per hour and we hit a wall. And now anything that was going to be something that we saw coming in the next 8 to 10 years is happening right now. So the townhomes in particular, and any 2 and 3 bedroom rooms, apartments, I feel are definitely much higher demand than they would normally be.
Great. Dave and Michael, are your companies looking at other product types, short-term rentals, other things to fill gaps, whether that's affordable housing or attainable housing and age restricted?
Who wants? Dave, you want me to go first, or you want to go?
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Okay. So the answer is yes. The answer hadn't always been yes. I mean, whether this is sort of a COVID transition and disruption naturally gives us all one, it sort of hits us in the head and makes us think about how do we innovate, but it also gives us a little bit of a forced pause to think about those things. And so, it's fascinating. There are some trends, I think, as it relates to conventional development and mixed use development that are in short-term question that were very much happening. I tend to think most of them are structurally stable, but in the moment, like communal spaces and smaller and smaller and smaller units, and really driving mixed use plans and various forms of co-working and even co-living, right, were hot as they could have been in February, March. Right now, everybody's pretty spooked about those things, even if they think they're going to stick long term. So that's fascinating. By contrast, as Sumner said, there's just a total acceleration of the suburban migration, right? The recognition that that's happening. I think it bears mention that there's a reality of sort of development cycles or timeline get the deal that we deal with. And so in theory, if you can go find a suburban site, and I agree completely, 5 acre entitled wrap sites are no mas in this town. If they come now, they come in the form of a newly zoned 50-acre plan that has 4 such 5 or 6 acre sites, and you got to buy them all at once. But I think it's interesting, though, that if you could go find that entitled site, the time to productivity is much, much faster than working through certainly any entitlements and also working through the sort of by nature, bespoke design process on an urban deal that's got existing uses, environmental, subgrade parking, all that. And so part of the accelerated move to the suburbs is you could actually capture that trend and catch it, perhaps, if you kind of get on with it. So we all feel a little bit of urgency there. But the other trends that were happening that I just think are on steroids now is affordable or attainable workforce housing. And those three are different labels given within different audiences for different reasons. And they all at some level kind of come together to be a semblance of the same thing. And then active adult and single family rental. At Mill Creek, we have not stood up an organization within the organization to be purely focused on attainable housing, but we're having an awful lot of conversations about it on two levels. One, how do we get it right in the deals that we're doing in the urban core? And as I mentioned, most of our offices are in gateway cities where they deal with these issues as a matter of some sort of legislated obligation for a long time, right? Dallas, Houston, there are some other markets where we're trying to figure that out, and we're kind of in the midst of working through that. And it's going to be a little messy. It's hard thing to figure out. Alternatively, we are absolutely trying to figure out, there's this middle, there are firefighter teachers, expensive, and we need to provide housing for them, including in the suburbs. And so how do we do that and do that at a price point from a building standpoint that allows us to lower the rent to really make it a attainable product? So we're having those conversations. With active adult and single family rental, it's fully accelerated. So we have stood up internally a division nationally within Mill Creek to focus on single family. We feel like we're the last one to do it. Everybody's done it quickly. So I don't think that's a thing, but it is an acknowledgement that we're doing that. And within our fundraising, we're 50% owned by the partners of the firm, 50% of we've got 4 funds that we've raised that are internal long-term investment advisory funds, and already that single family appears because there's a recognized kind of demand for that product type. So that's going to be interesting. That's going to work together with our regions, but I won't have responsibility for that. But looking at an individual site where there's an opportunity to do a conventional product, a single family product, it does create, will still be rental house, but it creates an opportunity to take a different approach. And then finally, active adult is the same thing. We will not get into independent living. Age restricted or age targeted active adult product is something we are going to be increasingly focused on. And I think it's interesting because you do have a lot of the sort of mid-tier suburbs, right, who have what I would call apartment fatigue. Right? You come in and say, hey, we're going to do X number of units. But if you look at any master plan done in those places, it looks like a donut shop, from an aerial. Right? It's wraps and donuts everywhere. So there's real propensity to come sort of two of those and say, what if we did active adult? And they're like, yay, that's what we want. Keep the tax space. So it's but not all those sites work for active adult. You can't just take an apartment site that's a decent conventional apartment site and assume that it's going to work right next to an active adult deal. And so I think it's interesting as that evolves, but it certainly is a major focus going forward.
Great. We'd love to touch on amenities for just a few minutes, and particularly transitions we've seen in thinking about amenity spaces since COVID-19 hit. Sumner, could you tell us a little bit about what Billingsley's approaches have been, moving away from the big clubhouse room or set up for a 100-person event? What's your current thinking? Is that still relevant?
Yeah. So by dumb luck, a couple of years ago, I'd say about 4 years ago, we started moving away from the huge club rooms and trying to make it more like a boutique hotel. So where there used to be maybe one big event space, now we'll have a smaller rooftop bar that feels sort of hip and chic and all that. Then downstairs we'll have an area that might be a library, and then another bar outside near a pool, and then a co-working space. We had started doing, before COVID, one co-working space, and now we're rolling out 3 different approaches to that at 3 different properties to sort of test what works best and what folks are more responsive to. One is a membership where you pay an additional fee and then you have access to it, and we stock it with, Ascension Coffee and have some networking events and have capped the membership to be COVID efficient and COVID friendly. Then the other one is renting out private offices that they get the key, they rent it out for a week or a month. And then the other is just creating these spaces and not necessarily charging a fee, but just allowing our residents to be able to have printer access and scanners and all of this stuff. So when folks are working from home, it's easier for them. But I do think we've seen a huge amount of success with these smaller, more intimate club rooms. They get used all day long, whereas beforehand, nobody wanted to bring their laptop in and work in a ballroom, for lack of a better term. This way, each person has their own nook and their own space, and really they're taking so much more advantage of these amenities, which has been great. And then since they're smaller spaces during COVID, whereas the larger ones that we have from older properties, we had to shut them down. Now people have been able to rent them out for 6 people that want to have a dinner party. And so we've actually been able to continue to generate profit off of the smaller amenity spaces during COVID, which has been a nice change. But then with us, I think it really comes down to, with most of our properties have been large scale developments, master plan communities. So having the variety of the types of pools and having trail systems and usually some sort of natural body of water are by far and away our biggest amenities. When gyms closed down with COVID, and when people are moving from the West Coast, they're outdoors, they're active, or even Austin, and our own local community, they just have a higher standard of what they deserve, which is completely justified. Those outdoor amenities have gone gangbusters, and the premiums for them are strong, and there's something that will be there and be valued with or without COVID. So those have been our strongest amenities.
Great. Dave, is that consistent with Providence thinking for some of your infill deals that you've done in Dallas, whether it's the Katy or the Preston Hollow Village project, or what is your approach for amenities there been to move away from big spaces?
Absolutely. Summer, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, we kind of consider it to be deconstructing that clubhouse that you used to have 7,000 or 8,000 square feet. Now you've kind of got a little pot of this, little pot of that. We're not so much into the co-working space as Summer. Sounds awesome. But we do have the rooftop, or we separate our courtyards into, one's got a pool, one's got a Zen garden, one's got a ping pong table, and maybe a turf yard or something for people to kind of play. Obviously, the dog park is huge in everything we do. The dog park is a communal space. It's have barbecue, areas and benches and things for people to kind of play with their dogs and pets and have that. Pets are such a huge part of the rental community right now, and probably will continue for sure. But yeah, we're trying to stay away from the big old clubhouses that are just wide open, kind of multi-use type of things. More specialized and even the pool areas kind of have been set up where you can have 2 or 3 people by themselves in a conversational area, and then some sort of barrier, whether it be planting or a small wall or other furniture, and then you just move over. So that way it's not just all in the same big wide spaces.
Great. And pace of change has definitely been accelerated away from the big spaces through COVID-19. As we get close to wrapping up, we'll want to just ask everybody who's logged in online, if you have any questions, feel free to put them on the chat. And as people are thinking about what they might want to ask, I'll turn it over to Michael first, just to say, kind of, as you look forward to 2021, what's in your pipeline? What are you excited about? Where's the next opportunity that's going to keep you busy for the next couple of years?
When we did our preview and practice for this, we never got to that part, right? So so we will only dig so deeply or unveil so much in regards to that question. But I think we're not going to flee the core, right? And so personally, and I think as a firm, we've got a conviction around the core of the city in Dallas, and for that matter in Fort Worth. We've got real interest in and continue to look there. I'd love to be involved candidly in one urban and one urban opportunity there. I love the city, understanding its sort of patterns and its kind of prospect. I mean, it's the same job demand that is applicable to Fort Worth, and then where the people that allocated to Fort Worth want to live, it's a hard nut to crack for me. North Fort Worth and areas around there that feed off of the job generation of the region is easier. And so but that's also not a new idea. So it's pretty competitive sort of site sourcing in the suburbs. But what a great city, what a great narrative it's got to be able to tap into and do very interesting things there. And so I'd love to do stuff in Fort Worth. In Dallas, we're going to stay focused. I'm going to be a believer in downtown. That sort of psychology in the immediate term has taken a couple of, steps back over the course of the last 6 months, just thinking about the resident psychology that needs to be there. You're not going to buy inexpensive land and you're not going to build inexpensive product, which means it's not going to be inexpensive to live. So it's going to take people that want to either really pay for a high quality urban experience or that are willing to trade things like parking, for example, because they want to be there, want to live there, and don't need that, right? And so the allocation of sort of what they can apply to housing or rental housing is different than it would be if you're also factoring in 2 car payments. So I'm a huge believer there. We'll continue to be believers in the suburban core, focus in the suburban core, right? Or the urban, and then take our urban core around Dallas. It's all about trails. It's about we've got a Project Madera Katy Trail that's under construction now. We have 2 communities that we are working on. They are both zoning cases. They're not going to be easy. People feel passionately about them. We're learning more and more about that. That's not a surprise, but we sent some wonderful opportunities on the outskirts of the city core to be connected to a trail system and vast open spaces, and think the lifestyle appeal is remarkable. And so I think we're going to be looking for those opportunities more than we are the next spot in Uptown. And then we're looking for these, we want to be at these suburban core nodes. That's probably going to require us to buy more than one phase. We've got the capital to do that. We have not ordinarily done that. And so we are trying to figure out how do you go and do something that was well thought out, that has kind of new urban blocks, activated trail connections that we've talked about. But can we be smart about how we do that from an investor and a financial perspective, recognizing that demand is likely to be sustained? We'll play in the core, we'll play in the suburban core, and we'd love to find a few opportunities to get a little further out.
Great. Dave, what's on your radar for 2021?
Well, I agree with Michael. We didn't get to this in our prep session, but I'll be happy to give you an idea of what we're thinking. We are going to try and stay out of the urban core unless something just falls on our lap. We've been also pretty big on public-private partnerships that could, avail us to put more affordable or workforce housing on the market. We're working on a redevelopment of a site in San Antonio that's pretty close to the urban core, but just on the fringes, but could not have happened without a public-private partnership. So those opportunities I still think are out there. They're messy, they're hard, they're complicated, but definitely worth the perseverance if you can get through there. But in the suburban, side, we're really focused on this build for rent product. Just like probably a lot of people out there listening, it's essentially a deconstructed 3-story garden apartment. It's still apartment size units. Looks like a single family home. Everyone's got a garage and a backyard, amenity center, walking trails, dog park, putting green, pickleball courts, all the fun things. But that takes land. So that's why we're really focused on these 30, 40, 50 acre pieces that we can master plan and couple that with some other use that our company develops. So that's what we're looking for in 21.
Right.
We got to get out of 20 first.
Yes, it's going to feel so good to turn the calendar over on December 31st, 2021.
Yes.
Going to be a party in like 1999.
Absolutely.
Sumner, at Billingsley, or is your focus continuing to build and develop land you already have, or are you looking at new sites?
We're always looking for new land. Absolutely. It's just, as you were touching on earlier, they're harder and harder to find, but we're always actively looking and pursuing that. But we're doubling down on the suburbs and moving full steam ahead. We've got our first project in Grapevine, which just started turning units about 2 months ago, and another project out at Cypress, not down at the Sound, but closer up to the elementary school, that'll be turning in units turn in March of 2021. And then we're breaking ground on a new project in December, and then another one in March. So I wish construction prices were a little lower, but we're excited and moving forward with things because, jobs are going to keep coming here. And I think especially, with COVID, all those companies, they're looking now and they're excited to get out here. So we're still doing that. And again, it just comes back to community and quality and not being able to sacrifice on that in the interim. And one thing that I sort of missed on mentioning, though, with these smaller boutique spaces, I think something that we've done differently is, whereas they used to sort of be more generic, they didn't want to have a strong personality so that anybody could make it their own. We are going like all in. This is British, boutique-y, whatever. And then another one's more Australian, hippie. So there's something for everybody, because you figure you only have so much space in your apartment, and most people don't plan on being there for the long haul. So to be able to have a living room and a private dining room, that's some wow feature for them. And then maybe they'll move next door to another one of our properties and try something else on the next year, I think is a level of quality that people are really excited about. And then for the community, it just in thinking about the programming, a lot of people during this COVID time were super isolated, and we had a lot of events on the docket that we wanted to do that were planned that had to get rescheduled. So then we started to say, if you were all alone, like, we don't want you to feel like you're not a part of this community or we've abandoned you. And so we reached out to the Dallas Symphony, and we would have them play music in each of the courtyards. And then if that wasn't your jam, we would have, a DJ come out. We did that less, but and all of our feedback that we did, just a random monkey, whatever those things are, the emails where all the residents going to give you their feedback. Unanimously, everybody loved the music. They just wanted to feel a part of something still, even if it was watching a movie in the courtyard. They were like, I didn't even like this movie, but I was so glad to be a part of something in this neighborhood. So I think that's something that we're certainly going to try to stick with and have good plans in place for the fall and the winter if these sort of conditions continue.
Great. In closing, we got a question through the chat about adoption of modular construction. Not sure if that means entire modular units or modular bathrooms. Are any of your companies looking at that? I know at GFF we've seen adoption of that in some higher cost of labor markets, Denver, on the coast, but we haven't seen much of it in Texas. Are you looking at it, and specifically are you looking at it for your projects in Texas?
We have, as a company, it comes up every time that we have some sort of a national panel to talk about development stuff. And to your point, I think there's a greater interest, although we're not doing it. We're doing prefab systems in some cases, not full on modular. But obviously in market, they're just specific issues, market to market, related to weather, related to subcontract bases, related to construction materials that are normal. All those sorts of things make a lot more sense in the Northeast or the Pacific Northwest, right? It does in the sort of high growth Sun Belt, where the fact of the matter is that our kind of labor pool, despite construction pricing being very, very hard to manage at the moment, it's just a lot more available and less expensive, particularly speaking, and we can build all year long. So not I don't see us doing it here, but we're intrigued about it and continue to look at it.
I agree. I mean, looking at construction costs, they're definitely, they're high here, but, we're low compared to everywhere else. So we should stop crying so much. Yes, modular building is definitely intriguing. I just don't think it's going to hit the economies. Like Michael said, it's great to build here all year long. We're not faced with some of the other constraints that maybe other parts of the country are. And, we'll continue to study it, but in the numbers that we've seen, it does not save us any real cost. It may save you some time, but even that, the learning curve is kind of steep, and you end up spending that time you saved, and you're basically no worse off. So,
great. Well, thank you all for your time. Does anybody from RE Journals want to pop in and say a word or two in closing?
Yeah. This was a great panel. That was me that asked about modular, by the way. And we have a show called Power 30. On Monday, I have a guest that's an architect that's doing modular in Minneapolis. And they're doing a 7-story building, all modular. It's 5/2. and it's all being built in a small rural city. And he said they can get costs down as much as 50%.
Wow.
Which just blew my mind, right? So now you're talking into affordable housing ranges and workforce housing and stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. The future.
Yeah.
But watch my show. You'll get to see all about it. Or the podcast got the full thing. All right. Thank you, everybody. Fantastic day. We went a little over. Sorry about that. But this will all be on YouTube. Send it out to your friends. Rewatch it. Send it to your kids. They can criticize how bad you were, like mine do. All right. Happy Thursday.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you all. Appreciate it.
Bye.